Welcome to, I think this is video, let's call this video 5. All right, here's a quick timeline. And what I like about this timeline is it shows how the two things overlapped. Here you kind of get Renaissance. Here's Reformation, Gutenberg Bible, Reformation, back to the Renaissance, all right? So we already talked about this. This is a little bit background on the printing press. Notice the first book he reprinted in 1455 was the Bible, all right? We've already talked about a lot of that, all right? Books are cheaper, readily available. People learn to read and write. Access to a broad set of ideas. You get these last kind of thoughts here on the Renaissance. Art is influenced by classical Greek, humanism, secular, vernacular. Art praised individual achievement. So let's see how you do. Watch. Look for the red. Nice. So today we're going to talk about the Reformation. All right. You should know, explain the reasons and the impacts. All right, and how it changed Europe. So what's going on is secularism's happening. The individualism of the Renaissance is challenging the church's authority. Rulers are challenging the church authority. The printing press is spreading ideas. And northern merchants are getting annoyed that they're having to pay 10% of their income to the church. All right, so then we see what happens here. People start being critical of the church. The church is getting wealth and power. Renaissance ideas are hurting it. Renaissance invented the printing press, spreading ideas challenging the church. People get upset because the church is starting to get too worldly, to worry about what's going on around them. Printing press, rulers, right? And again, tribute about 10% to Rome. One of the problems is all these corrupt leaders, extravagant popes. Popes are spending a ton of money building things, not helping people, and poorly educated priests are making the local church look bad. Early on in the Reformation, we talked about Huss and Wycliffe. Again, attack the Pope, saying the Bible is more important than the church. And what helps their ideas spread? The printing press. Then the big guy, Luther. Martin Luther protests Friar John Tetzel's selling of indulgences. He was selling indulgence, a pardon, and releasing a person from penalties for sin. So basically, the time, here's heaven, here's earth. In the middle, there's this thing called purgatory. So your dead great aunt Emma is in purgatory, waiting to get in. You could buy an indulgence, would forgive them for their sins, and they would get in heaven. Yes, those are being sold. Martin Luther says this is ridiculous. He literally nails his thesis to the wall. Within a month, they get spread throughout Europe, and he launches the Reformation, a movement for religious reform. He says the Pope is unjust. Lower priests are breaking a lot of their vows. He was a monk and a teacher. He hated the indulgences, and he's like, no. I see what you did there. Like if he had a cup of tea there, he would say, I know what you're doing. But he would say, but it is his business. He's mad. He lists these 94-5 problems on the wall, nails it to the door of the church. Paper, nailed to the church. He said, justification by faith. You can prove that you love God and you're religious by what you do. All church teaching should be based on the Bible, and all people with faith are equal. He basically says you don't really need priests. People can win salvation by good works and faith. Go back to the Bible. And this is really interesting. Martin Luther says you don't need a priest to read and understand the Bible. You can read the Bible for yourself. The Pope gets mad. Pope Leo X says, stop saying that. Luther basically gets excommunicated or kicked out of the church. And I'm going to have to go a little long on this one, guys. Sorry. So Charles V is the Holy Roman Empire. He issues the Edict of Worms, says that Luther's a heretic. And Luther and his followers begin a separate religious group called the Lutherans. Creative name, huh? What happens is, because of this controversy between the Holy Roman Empire, German peasants also revolt, and princes crush that revolt. So at the same time, thanks to the Black Death, there's this revolt going on, and there's this separate issue about the church. But they're related in that they're about change and not wanting the old way of things to happen. So what happens is, once Germany goes to war, half the princes say, I'm with Luther. They become known as the Protestants. Another half of the priests or princes in Germany say, I'm with the Catholic Church. It takes until the Peace of Augsburg in 1555 that says each prince can decide his religion. So that happened in Germany at the same time, effectively. England's going to have a problem. Henry VIII, he wants a son, has a daughter. If you're king, you want to have a son, so your son can take over. He wants a divorce. But the Pope, because the Pope refused to annul, set aside his first marriage to Catherine Aragon. So what does he do? He has the Reformation Parliament. Parliament, their legislative body, passes a law, and it's the Pope power in England. Henry remarries, and he becomes the hang of England's church called the Anglican Church. Thomas More speaks out against this, arrested and executed. The Act of Supremacy says that England's citizens must renounce the Pope authority and accept Henry as the official leader of the church. Henry dies in 1547. Elizabeth is one of the rulers after him, faces problems. Protestants and Catholics oppose Elizabeth, and eventually Elizabeth restores Protestantism. In 1555, Parliament officially sets up the Anglican Church, making Elizabeth the head of it. Elizabeth created reforms to appeal to both Catholics and Protestants. It looks very Catholic. Anglican Church looks very Protestant. Very Catholic. The only thing that makes it somewhat Protestant is priests could marry. Henry VIII, Catherine of Aragon, is his child. Then he marries Anne Boleyn. They have Elizabeth. Then he marries Jane Seymour. And he's Edward IV. Then he marries Anne of Cleves, Catherine Henry. So Henry VIII, it's going through wives like a hot knife through butter. Right? Tetzel sells the indulgence, leads to this. No, I have to show you that.
If you having church problems, then don't blame God, son. I got 95 theses, but the Pope ain't one. Listen up, all my people, it's a storm for time. Not the sin and injustice and